Okay, everybody, welcome back. Today, or tonight, or in this video, I guess probably the easiest way to say it, is that we are going to do the third objective of this unit, which is simply to graph a line. We want to graph a line on the coordinate plane and use our knowledge of slope to be able to do that. So, before we get into a couple things here, the first thing I see in this that's going to look a little weird, we really need to know what the coordinate plane is. So, in our notes to start this, I want to talk about the coordinate plane. And you can see I've already labeled a few things here for you. So the coordinate plane is the y-axis, which is this up and down axis. And it's the x-axis, which tells me left to right. So I have both of those labeled, and I've already started to clear this out for us. I've already started to label the origin, which is where this graph begins. And I want to put on here some information that this point is 0, 0. Now, some other knowledge I think is helpful here. You guys should know that any coordinate on here is the value x, comma, y. And those x and y correspond to the x and y axis. Well, in addition, we can remember a few things about this. We can remember that x tells us left and right, and y tells us up and down. And that's helpful so we know where each point's talking about. And I like to write that, to be honest. Anytime I'm going to graph, this kind of goes into my toolbox of things I need to know every time. So if I give you the point 2, 4, I know that's over 2 and up 4. And that's really all we're going to need here. We should also know that the y-intercept and x-intercept of a line are the points where they cross the y-axis. So this would be the point 0, comma, let's say -5, just because it's down. Or that would be the y-intercept of a line, b equals -5. I could have over here a point -5, comma, 0. And that would be the x-intercept, because that's where it crosses the x-axis. Why do I bring up y-intercept? Because we already have a note here about this. That y-intercept is going to tell you where to start on the graph. The slope, more or less, can tell you how to move from point to point. So now that we reviewed that, let's go through and take a look at our lines. So the first section I'm going to give you is I'm going to tell you the intercepts. And your job is to graph from there. Consider yourself lucky if you get this early on, because this is a pretty easy section here. Your job is simply to sketch the graph. Well, what do? I'm going to label the x-intercept, and that's at 4, so that point is right here at x equals 4. And then I'm going to label the y-intercept, which is at -3. Make your points nice and big so we can see them. And then all you do is simply connect those dots. I'm not looking for great lines, but you should have a ruler in front of you, so we should be able to get a pretty decent line. You can see mine right here is a little off. I don't really care for that. But we can make it simply by making these points a little bigger, and then it kind of blends in, and that looks a lot better. I'm looking for those points. I got to see those points before I move on. Watch what happens at 44. I'm not going to color code this one. I'm going to go to -5 for my x value, and I'm going to go to 1 for my y value, and then I'm simply connecting those dots. Again, use your ruler to make it nice and straight. If you do mess up a little bit, simply make your points a little bigger so it hides that a little better for you, and that looks a lot better. I don't think we need too many examples on these, guys. So take a moment and let's go through and try these. And these. done with those, pause this video, and we'll come back and do the next section of problems here. Because this is going to change a little bit on us. So pause now, finish those questions, and then we'll move on. All right, everybody, welcome back. Hopefully you had no problem graphing those earlier ones. And as we've moved on to this next section, you can see what I've given you immediately here is the equation of the line. And unfortunately, it's not in slope-intercept form. So now we've got some work to do. Unfortunately, that work is each one of these needs to be solved for y. No way around it. Solving for y is here to stay. So I'm going to work on 52 here. I'm going to write it over here so I have a little space to work. And we just want to remember, how do I solve that for y? We've done it quite a bit tonight. Our line goes down the middle. It subtract out the x. And this one wasn't too bad. Because I've got it pretty quick. I didn't need to divide anything by the y. Now, why do I do that? Because now this is in slope-intercept form. We've practiced this already, finding simply the slope. The slope of this line is -3. And I'm going to put -3 over 1, just so I know that's rise over run. The y-intercept of this line is also -3. Why does that help me? Well, the y-intercept is my point. It's my starting spot. So when I come to y equals -3, my slope, my y-intercept here, -3, that's my point right here to start. That's my starting spot. The slope tells me how to move from point to point. And we're going to remember that slope was rise over run. So, because I go down 3, because it's -3, look what happens. 1, 2, 3, and I go to the right one, and I've established a new point on that line. Now I've run out of room there. So go back to my starting spot here, and instead of down 3, I'm going to go up 3, but now I'm going to go to the left one, so I can get a new point. It doesn't matter if I go down 3, right 1, or up 3, left 1. Both of those are the same exact slope. And I've utilized both here in order to graph some points. You want to graph as many points as you can. So, from where I left off, I'm going to go up 3 over 1. There's a new point. Up 3 over 1. There's a new point. And you can see I build in as many points as possible. The reason I do that is because now I can take my ruler and really get a pretty good graph there. Yours is going to look a lot better than mine because I don't have a ruler on here that I can really use. Again, feel free to fill in these dots a little bigger so they kind of cover up any mistakes you may have made. But that's what I'm looking for. Let me be clear that the points are critical to this. You may not simply graph a line. I'm really taking the time and really doing the points correctly. So as I come down to all of these, if I don't see points, let's write that out. No points. No credit. Absolutely have to have points and a correctly graphed line. Outside of that, there's not a lot going on here. Let's take a look at 53 because now we'll see solving something a little harder. So I'm going to rewrite the problem down here so I have a little more room to work. The first step, again, seems to be let's get rid of this 6. Like so. Now, unlike that first one, here I'm going to have to divide. We've solved for y enough times tonight, or hopefully this is not an issue for us. If it is, take a break here and go back to the earlier videos on slope so you can practice solving for y. I'm not going to show too much of that process other than to go to the final answer. Because now I know that the slope is negative 6 over 5, and the y-intercept, well, the y value of the y-intercept is 4. Now I'm ready to graph. So, I come up here, and I start at 4, and my slope is down 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Down 6 over 5. And you can see on this one, I've run out of points. I've run out of room. So this graph would only have 2 points. Graph as many points as you possibly can. Okay, take a moment and complete the rest of these problems. And complete all the way to problems 59 here. And I'll take a moment and pause while you complete those problems, and we've moved on now to one of the last sections here. So take a moment and complete up to 59. Okay, everybody, welcome back. So, as you can see here in 59, these problems now have all been solved for y for you. So we don't have to worry too much about the solve for y. We can go ahead and just graph right away. I wanted to do one of these by hand here, just so we don't get confused that the y-intercept is negative 5, and the slope is 1 there. So I do want to make sure you know that that slope is 1. If it was negative x, that slope would be negative 1. So this tells me to start at negative 5, and the slope of 1 is up 1 over 1. Up 1 over 1. There we go. Lots of points. Beautiful graph there for that one. Okay? You can see that 60 is the same thing. The nice thing about this section, they're already solved for y, so you don't have to worry as much. What I'm going to do now on 62 is we're going to go a different route. And that different route is using our calculator. The graphing calculator is one of the most powerful tools you'll have in math. And you want to start using it. So, this was perfectly set up in order to graph a line. Here we go. We're going to go to this y equals button. And when I hit that, this brings up the angle of everything that I can graph. And what I want to graph is this. So I'm going to be a little careful. I'm going to have to do my fractions. This is negative 5 over 4 x minus 1. So I do need to be a little careful on how I enter that into the calculator. But now I'm set and I'm ready to graph. So I'm going to hit this graph button right here. And you can see I've established that that's my graph. Here's why I said that you guys needed points. You cannot simply copy this down like this because you're not going to get the right answer. You need points. The nice thing is that your calculator will provide them. Your calculator, if you go to second, and then table, see how table's in yellow and the second button is yellow? This is the table of values that you can plug in. And you can graph all of these points. So I would start right here at negative 4, 4, negative 4, 4, and there's a point. Then I would graph 0, negative 1, right there. Make that a little bigger so we can see it. And then I would scroll down, and there's another point, 4, negative 6. 4, negative 6, right there. So my calculator was able to show me the points. And then I would connect these dots, which I'll do in a second. While I've got the calculator on, well, let's finish that actually. So now I'm going to connect the dots here, because I've graphed all the possible points. Your calculator will do this for you. It will do it on every single graphing problem. I'm going to insist that I'm able to see these points. So now that I've got my calculator out, that I'm able to see this, and you have clearly connected these dots with a ruler. Yeah, I'm not using a ruler because the smartboard is a little troublesome to get a ruler on there. But I think we get the idea that I'm going to need a ruler and a really straight line. Now, the question is, when you came back and did all of these problems and solved these for y, why couldn't you graph these using your calculator? And the answer is you absolutely could have. In fact, you could even shortcut this a little bit. Your calculator will accept numerous different ways. So, let's go back to number 58. And let's say in 58, we should already have an answer there. But let's show how we could enter that into the calculator without doing all the work of solving for y. Because the calculator will accept this. So when I bring up the calculator here, I'm going to go back to my y equals. Notice this is not solved for y, so I'm going to have to do some work. If I were going to solve this for y, the first thing I would have done was brought this x over here. So I'm going to do parentheses. And I'm just going to put -5. Now, what value would come over? -6 would have come over. So minus 6x. Then I have to get rid of this negative by dividing by -1. And you can see this is not in slope-intercept form, but this is a graph that my calculator could do. And as I bring it up, this should match the graph that you have on your paper right now. If you're not sure, go to second table, and here's all your table of values. These should match the points that you graph. So, is it necessary to solve all of these for y in that last section? No, I don't think so. I think you can simply type them in like this, and you'll get the same answer. I'm going to need to know that you're able to solve for y when I say find the slope. This does not tell you slope. So you still need to be careful, and you still need to know how to solve for y. But on quiz time, it might be a good idea that you're able to do this just as a backup in case you're not able to solve for y. So all of these questions, in addition to being able to do them by hand, can easily be solved using your calculator. Simply plug them in and use your table of values to get a point. Now, mind you, there's no reason you can't do these by hand. On 63, this slope, the y-intercept is 0, and the slope is up 1 over 4, or down 1, left 4. Again, remember that rule that the slope of 1/4 is the exact same thing as -1 over -4. We want to make sure we know those for our quiz tonight. As I scroll through this, at the very end of this, I have given you some problems. Well, again, you're going to have to solve for y. 70, I'm not going to concern myself with, though. You shouldn't have too many of these. I don't see a problem with you guys getting this into your calculator and getting rid of the fraction here. What I would do is I would multiply that whole equation by 25. That way we can get rid of this denominator here. And what happens when I multiply every term by that 25? Well, I'm going to get 50 minus 50 over 5 plus 18, y plus 18x. And 50 over 5 has become 50, will become 10y. And that's a minus sign, not an equal sign. My apologies. Like so. Now it's a lot easier to solve this for y. Still going to be a little challenging. That I'm going to get 10y equals 18x plus 50. And 9/5 x plus 5. So you can see this was designed to work. My y-intercept is 5, and I'm going to have to go down 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And over 5. And there's my line. So even though that looked very complicated, we were able to just multiply through by 25 and get that. Again, all of these we're going to have to solve for y first, and then graph it. You should be careful, oops, sorry, of one last thing. This occurred in 74. When I solve 74 for y, I get y equals 2. This is one of those special lines. And obviously we see this for last. That's a horizontal line that goes through y equals 2. Just like so. If you got an equation that said x equals 2, this is the other special line that goes through x that is up and down. So please take a note of that all the way back in the beginning when we talked about vertical and horizontal lines and the slope of 0 versus undefined, because we're going to end our night on that topic. Okay, there they are. All right, at this point, we should be done with our code packet, and if not, we're going to have to go back and finish any problems you haven't done. Look these over. Make sure you can do all of them. Your quiz will consist of all of these, obviously far fewer. When you're ready, see me, and I'll give you the answer sheet to this so you can check everything one last time, and then we'll be prepared for a quiz in a little bit. Good luck to you.